Hey there, movie lovers. In the year 2563, 3 centuries after a devastating war known as the Fall, a doctor named Ido visits the scrapyard to pick up any good pieces he can use for repairs. He comes across a destroyed cyborg girl. He confirms her brain is still functioning and takes her home and gives her a new body with the help of his assistant nurse. The next morning, the cyborg girl wakes up in a girl's room and is amazed by her new body. After admiring her new self in a mirror, she puts on some clothes and goes downstairs, where she sees Ido is taking care of other cyborg patients. Ido is glad to see her awake and offers some breakfast. But the girl reveals she can't even remember how to eat a simple fruit. It turns out she has no memories from her previous life, and Ido hasn't found any records of her either. Afterward, the girl goes outside to see Iron City for the first time. It's a lower-class kind of place, and above them she notices Salem, the last of the great sky cities where the elite lives. After the war, survivors came to live on Earth, and all the work that is done on Earth is for Salem, but nobody is allowed to go up there. Ido gives the girl the name Alita and invites her to stay with him, which she agrees to. Ido then goes out to do some chores, and he takes Alita with him, hereby giving her the chance to see a motorball match on a big screen and make friends with a street dog. Alita also finds a wanted sign looking with a bounty for a criminal that killed 6 women. At that moment, a huge robot appears in the middle of the street, and Alita instinctively gets in a defensive position. A young man named Hugo immediately pushes her out of the way, but Alita goes back to save the dog. Hugo's impressed, but still explains she shouldn't mess with centurions because they guard the city. The 2 youngsters hit it off, but Ido interrupts them and brings Alita back home. Late at night, a woman tries to return to her apartment only to suddenly be attacked by the wanted murderer. Meanwhile, Alita wakes up when she hears a noise and discovers Ido coming home too late, carrying a huge suitcase and a blood stain on his hand, and this drives her into suspicion. The next day, Alita begins helping Ido with the patients and learns that a man had his cyborg limbs stolen by jackers who sell them in the black market that supports motorball games. She also hears another woman got killed last night. On hearing this, she can't help getting suspicious of Ido and his wrist wound. After work, Alita goes out and bumps into Chirin, a mysterious woman with a mark on her forehead. Chirin grabs Alita's hand, freaking her out and causing her to run. Then Chirin meets with Ido, revealing that they used to be married, and that Ido used the cyborg body they had made for their dead daughter to repair Alita. Chirin wants to work with Ido again to build a motorball champion that could buy her way to Salem, the city in the sky. But Ido refuses to build monsters. Then Chirin leaves, and Ido notices her getting in a car with Vector, the man behind the factory or so-called motor games. Meanwhile, Alita meets with Hugo, who is playing motorball with Tanji and some other friends. He accepts to teach her how to play and lends her a pair of roller skates. But as the game begins, Tanji uses extreme force on her, and this triggers something in her system. So as they go for the second round, she knocks down Tanji for revenge and then scores the next point. After the match, Hugo introduces Alita to chocolate for the first time, and they both notice Zapan, a bounty hunter, or as they call it, hunter-warrior. He carries a sword, since guns are forbidden. In the following days, Alita continues working with Ido in the mornings and spends afternoons with Hugo. Hugo takes Alita to a tall building to view Salem and confesses his dream of reaching it someday. He points out that the scrapyard is filled with Salem's discarded trash. He states that if Ido claims to have found her from the scrapyard, that means she originally came from the Sky City. In the evening, Alita pretends to sleep and then sneaks out and follows Ido, finding him stalking a woman named Nisiana in a dark alley with a scythe-shaped weapon. Believing Ido intends to kill Nisiana, Alita intervenes, revealing their location. It turns out Ido is a hunter-warrior targeting criminals for bounties. And this is a trap set by Gruishka, Nisiana, and Romo. Gruishka's cyborg subordinates attacks Ido. Alita jumps in to help Ido and somehow easily defeat Romo and Nisiana. Gruishka, shocked by Alita's skills, fights her. But during the battles, Alita shows off impressive fighting skills, and it triggers one of her memories of her in an armor, fighting on the moon. Coming back to reality, she delivers a special kick that caused Gruishka to lose an arm. Gruishka escapes, but promises to return back for them. And Ido takes Nisiana's body to the hunter-warrior headquarters for a reward. After getting home, Alita demands answers about her memories and herself, and Ido reveals he made her body for his wheelchair-bound daughter, who was killed by an addict. Ido became a hunter-warrior for revenge. He tells Alita that her brain and core is powered by an antimatter microreactor, is unique as it hasn't been made since the Great War, hereby saying that she's over 300 years old. Gruishka reports Alita's skills to Chiren, who is currently repairing him. Then Vector comes in and interrogates Gruishka. Just then, his eyes turns blue, revealing Zalem's overlord Nova can communicate through cyborgs. Nova orders Gruishka to kill Alita and bring her heart to him. He also offers Chiren a chance to go to Zalem if she helps, and then Vector eyes turn black again, showing that Vector is back to his body. Ido discovers Gruishka is being protected as there is no bounty on his head. Then Alita asks him whether she can become a bounty hunter like him, since fighting brings back some memories of her past. But Ido forbids her from becoming a hunter-warrior. Alita, who's furious, runs away with Hugo to a motorball match. Hugo shows Alita behind the scenes of the match, explaining that after 2 years, a final champion emerges and he gets to go to Zalem. They see Chiren and Vector, who build motorball cyborgs. The current champion is attacked by jackers, including Hugo and his friends, who sell his parts to Vector. The next day, Hugo and his friends take Alita to see outside the city. In a lake, there's a ship that fell during the war. Some scrappers took various parts, but it was mostly left alone because it's technology made by the enemy, the UARM, United Republics of Mars. Hugo thinks this may help Alita recover her memories, so she doesn't hesitate to get into the lake, where she has no trouble breathing. By walking underwater, she manages to enter the ship, where she opens a strange door that takes her to a mysterious force field. Somehow recognizing all this, Alita summons the control panel and shuts down the shield, revealing an advanced armored body that Alita takes with her after leaving the ship. When she gets home, Alita asks Ido to give her this body because she feels a special connection to it, but Ido refuses. He explains this body is known as a berserker, a weaponized cyborg that knew the techniques of Panzerkunst. The ship reacted to Alita's core because she was created as a weapon, and Ido doesn't want her to be a weapon again. He thinks it's better for her to have a chance at a normal life. Ignoring Ido's worries, Alita goes to the headquarters to register as a hunter-warrior. Then she asks Hugo to take her to the bar where hunter-warriors hang out. The dog from the other day sees them and decides to come along. In the bar, Zapan teases Alita for being a little girl and introduces her to the power of the other warriors, like McTeague and his cyborg dogs. Alita ignores his taunting and talks to everyone in the bar, asking them to team up so they can hunt Gruishka together and overpower whoever is protecting him. Everyone finds the idea laughable, and Zapan makes fun of Alita for it. Alita insults him back and causes Zapan to attack her, but Alita easily beats him up and breaks his nose. Afterward, Alita calls everyone pathetic and offers a deal. If she defeats them, then they must agree to team up with her. A bar fight immediately ensues, and an amused McTeague watches how Alita kicks everyone's butts without trouble. Ido arrives and makes everyone stop by threatening them with no more free repairs. As Ido scolds Alita for her choices, Gruishka shows up and kills a man to show off his upgrades. Gruishka asks for Alita, and the dog comes to her defense, but Gruishka kills it. Furious, Alita paints warrior marks on her face with the dog's blood and begins fighting Gruishka. Ido wants to help, but Hugo quickly pushes him away. Gruishka makes a hole in the ground to fight Alita in the ruins of the old world. Alita continues to fight spectacularly, although this time, Gruishka's upgrades allow him to wound her leg. Gruishka tells her that she was made by Nova just like him, putting Alita in a bad emotional state. The next time Gruishka attacks, Alita fails to dodge it and loses most of her body. This triggers a memory of Gelda, teaching Alita how to fight. She reminded her to never give up, because they needed to defeat Nova soon. Encouraged by Gelda's words, Alita uses her remaining arm to make her body bounce and punch Gruishka through his eye socket. Then she falls on the ground, just in time for Ido and Hugo to arrive and attack Gruishka. McTeague comes as well and sends his cyborg dogs to get revenge for the dead dog, scaring Gruishka into running away. Ido takes what is left of Alita home and repairs her by giving her the berserker body, which immediately adjusts to its new host. It is then revealed that the body is made out of nanotech. The next morning, Alita is feeling stronger than ever and discovers her fingers can make plasma. Afterward, Alita meets with Hugo and tells him this nanotech makes her texture sensors a lot more touch-sensitive. Hugo touches Alita's arms and face so she can experience actual human contact. Then, the two of them kiss. Meanwhile, Gruishka's throwing a tantrum over his loss, so Nova takes over Vector's body to scold Gruishka and remind him of his mission. Once Nova is gone, Vector decides he can't trust Gruishka with such an important mission and decides to meet with Hugo to get her to talk about Alita by getting him drunk. The next day, Alita finds Hugo in his apartment suffering from a hangover. They talk about Hugo's dream of reaching Salem, and Alita offers to give him the money she gets from bounties to buy a ticket from Vector. Hugo doesn't want her to get in danger again, and Alita explains she'd do anything for him, including giving him her heart. In fact, she removes it from her chest to prove her point. But Hugo turns it down, saying she can't just trust anyone she meets. He also informs her that Vector wants to see Alita play motorball, and Alita accepts if Hugo becomes her coach. That way they could go to Salem together if she wins. All this is seen by Zapon from afar. The night of Alita's first big game, Ido gives her extra protection and custom-made skate feet. Alita chooses the number 99 in honor of her memories. Meanwhile, Vector contacts the other players and offers a huge reward to whoever kills Alita during the match. On the streets, Hugo finds Tanji and the others getting parts from a cyborg. He announces he wants to quit this business, which triggers a fight between him and Tanji. They're suddenly interrupted by Zapon, who, wanting to have his revenge on Alita, kills the jacked cyborg to make it look like the jackers did it, and then he attacks Hugo and wounds his shoulder. Tanji tries to rescue his friend, but Zapon easily kills him with his sword. Hugo takes the chance to distract Zapon with a Molotov bomb and runs away. But still, Zapon chases after him. At the stadium, Vector tells Chiren that he made Hugo bring Alita to them by promising to take him to Salem. Ido realizes Alita's opponents aren't normal players. They're all bounty markers and hunter warriors, which means this is a trap. He calls Alita through the communicator on her system to warn her about them, but Alita stays to fight. These guys are tough and manage to land a few hits on her, but Alita is still far superior and easily beats them all up. Suddenly, Alita gets a call from Hugo, who tells her he needs help to defeat Zapon. Alita wastes no time and jumps through the stadium's big screen to leave the building, and the other players follow her. With more room to move, Alita has no trouble beating them all up and destroying the last one with a grinder. She then goes to find Hugo, who is about to be killed by Zappan. Alita immediately pushes Zappan away, but at that moment, the bounty screens show that Hugo is wanted for murder. Hugo admits he was a jacker, but also explains he only took the parts without killing. Zapan reminds Alita of the hunter's code, but since Alita can't bring herself to kill the man she loves, Zapan stabs Hugo first. A centurion shows up to ask for Hugo's body, so Alita picks him up and runs away with him. In a secret spot, Hugo swears he didn't kill anyone and that he quit his job for Alita. The two of them kiss and confess their love for each other. Chirin watches all this from afar, and she's so touched by their relationship that when Vector calls her, she tells him she lost track of Alita and Hugo. Then she offers help to them for the boy to live. Moments later, Alita comes out with Hugo's head in her arms. The Centurion accepts this as Alita, having finished the bounty. But Zapan takes a closer look and discovers Chirin has connected Hugo's brain to Alita's core. Furious, Zapan tries to attack Alita to collect the head, but stealing another hunter's kill is a violation code, and the Centurion classifies Zapan as a criminal now. This allows Alita to destroy Zapan's face and take his sword. Hours later, Ido has finished giving Hugo a new body, even if it's rather rudimentary. Ido explains to Alita that Vector's promises were fake, and the only way to go to Zalem is by becoming champion. He knows this because he and Chirin are from Zalem. They were forced to come here by Nova when he saw their daughter was imperfect. Ido removed the mark of Zion from his forehead to leave that life behind. Meanwhile, Vector confronts Chirin for letting Alita go. Chirin explains Alita reminded her of her duties as a doctor and a mother, so she wants to quit because she doesn't care about Zalem anymore. Vector, on telling her that he can send her to Zalem at the moment, sends a guard after her. Determined to get revenge for Hugo, Alita goes to the Hunter Warriors' headquarters, which is located in the Cyborg factory building. Using Zapan's sword, Alita destroys all the Centurions and the bounty system before bursting into Vector's office, where she discovers Vector's has taken Chirin's body parts to give them to Nova for his experiments, as that is the only way for someone to go to Zalem. She's so distracted that she doesn't hear Gruishka arrive, and she gets hurt on her hip, which triggers another flashback. During the war, Alita, Gelda, and their team tried to reach Zalem by climbing the cargo tubes. A serrated defense ring appeared on the tube and killed the army, leaving only Alita and Gelda behind before it broke the tube in two. Alita barely managed to hang on the edge, and Gelda helped her back up as she reminded her the mission was to destroy Zalem. With Gelda's words as inspiration, Alita's body then heals itself since it's nanotech. Immediately, she kills Gruishka with just a couple of moves. Afterward, Alita demands to speak to Nova, and the Overlord takes over Vector's body to respond. He reminds Alita that he can see everything and threatens to kill Ido and Hugo, causing a furious Alita to kill Vector to silence him. At that moment, Ido calls Alita to inform her that Hugo had to run away because Centurions are after him. Alita searches for her boyfriend and finds him climbing the tube to go up to Zalem. Despite Alita's warnings that Nova is using him to get to her, Hugo doesn't listen, and Nova takes the chance to drop a serrated ring on them. Alita manages to dodge it, but Hugo is hit and loses most of his body. With a quick jump, Alita grabs Hugo's hand to stop him from falling, but Hugo's arm is slowly coming apart. The couple shares their love one last time before the arm breaks and Hugo falls to his death. Months later, Alita has become a motorball superstar. During a match, she raises her sword to point at Zalem as a promise to become champion and find Nova to get her revenge.
Subscribe for more.